Welcome to Only One You Need Radio. We're not the only one you need. You are. We just show you how to get out of your own way. With your host, speaker, author, business coach, and consultant, David Dubé.
Welcome to Only One You Need Radio. It's your host, David Dubé. Super excited to have you here with me today. In this episode, my friend, I want to just chat about being vulnerable and the power in vulnerability. There's so much power in being vulnerable, and yet it's something that so many people are truly afraid of. There's this thing called peacocking. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but this is something that a lot of men do. Women do this as well, but I find more men do it than anything else. But it's like the tough guy routine, like not letting anyone know that something could make you hurt or something makes you weak or what, right? And it's the perception of what is what it comes down to. Now, and they overcompensate. So anyone doing that is overcompensating for something. And you've heard of this, you've heard of overcompensation before. It's very prevalent. Almost anywhere you look, you'll find it happening. We're all guilty of it too, to some extent. I certainly am. But I try, or rather, when I do find myself doing that, I'm like, okay, I got to drop the act, as it were, and just be. In my beingness, I attract more to me. In anyone's beingness, meaning you just be truly who you are, you attract more of what you are to you. And then this past weekend was a great example of that. And I want to share a story with you from a friend of mine that I got to hang out with yesterday. And she's got an amazing story. And her name is Larissa Tranquar. And I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. And I've known Alyssa for 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, 2.5, 3-ish years. And I never met her before until yesterday. And she's got an amazing story. She runs her tribe is called the Grateful Tribe. And it's Grateful, G-R, and then the number 8, T-F-U-L, Grateful Tribe. And she's just an amazing, warm-hearted, kind, kindred spirit. And I met her on Periscope, like I said, like 2.5 years ago. And she followed me. I followed her. We watched each other's broadcasts because I used to Periscope constantly. It was pretty much once daily. And through that grew, obviously, a relationship and a bond through that. And she would share her story and her husband's story. Her husband's Bill. And over the last 27 years, they've been doing what's called the stadium tour for baseballs. So baseball stadiums. And yesterday was the very last stop on their tour. Not only was it the last stop, it was the last ballpark to complete the 30 ballpark tour. And 27 years is a long time to do that. And obviously they didn't go every single year. And in the last several years, her husband, Bill, has been struggling with and going through cancer and cancer treatment. And so it's understandable that they hadn't been able to do it every single year, among many other things, as he's been a Marine for, I believe it's 22 years. Either way, a long time. And he retired not too long ago. Just a great couple, amazing couple. So I'm super blessed to have been able to hang out with them yesterday at the Twins game. And the Twins, if you follow the Twins, they're not doing great by any stretch of the imagination. But yesterday's game was absolutely stellar. It was an absolutely amazing game to be at. And I was super blessed to not only meet them, hang out with them, and enjoy my time and day with them, but also watch an amazing Twins game. But the best part about this whole thing that I want to share with you is Larissa being vulnerable. being vulnerable, sharing with her grateful tribe, who she started off she called herself the Grateful Chick. And then eventually she called everyone who would watch her Periscopes part of her grateful tribe. And then she started a Facebook group for the Grateful Tribe, which I strongly urge you to check out and hang out and find her and just hear her story. Her and Bill's story is awesome. And she only wants, obviously, the best for people. And that's one of the things that's so awesome about who she is. But in sharing her story about Bill and his struggle and her struggle with Bill and what she goes through and all of that twines into who she is as an individual, and just literally being vulnerable with all her people and having them communicate back and forth about, what are you grateful for today? What is it that what are your expectations? What are you looking forward to? And all those things. She keeps such a positive vibe to everything. But at the same time, you have to understand that there's people who are going to listen to your message, and especially her and myself who do broadcasts or have done broadcasts. You get those who don't like what you stand for. They don't like who you are, or they don't want to understand your message, or they're having a bad day or a terrible week or a terrible month or year, what have you, and they attack. And it's hard. It can definitely be trying. But the cool thing is that Larissa normally passes that off and brushes it off and focuses once again on the positive things, the positive aspects of life. And it's so powerful and so awesome to be a part of. But in her recent shows, I guess there was an individual who heard about the tour and who, I'm not sure, I don't believe it was him specifically, but through his wife, learned of what was going on with Bill, and Bill being a Marine, and this gentleman was a Marine, but they never had contact with Larissa directly or with Bill directly. And this gentleman heard about them going on this tour and shared the story that this would be the last stadium in the stadium tour that Bill had to visit before completing the 30 stadium tour with the Twins organization. And this guy went out of his way to share that with the Twins organization, and to be at the game, to be sitting next to him, and to see this Minnesota Twins representative come out, find Bill, and give him a gift of roughly $150 worth of memorabilia from both the Twins and the Major League Baseball was awesome and heartwarming to be a part of and to hear and to just experience. We were all filled with so much emotion as he was given this gift bag, and someone who, Larissa has said she's never talked to him, but went out of his way to make this happen for Bill, her husband, just based upon her being vulnerable and sharing a story with people that she doesn't necessarily know, but who get to know her through her just being there, doing live streaming. And there's so much power in that. And yet, now I'm not telling you to go do live streaming and share your embarrassing moments. That's not what I'm saying. But the point is just being vulnerable is okay. And it can pay dividends that you would never imagine it being able to do. It can do things for you that you never thought were possible. And the reason why is because we hold those things back. We're so afraid to let people know the things that we are afraid of and the things that make us scared. We don't share them very often. But when we do, there's power in it. There's so much power and authority that actually you gain from that. And you also, in sharing that with someone else, you share with them the fact that it's okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to hurt, or at least to have felt hurt, or to fear something. It's okay. And it also aids in building that community and bridging the gap between who you are and who you want to be in your life. And that's why I'm so grateful that I was able to share my day yesterday with such amazing people. That's really what I wanted to impart on you today, is that it's okay. It really is okay to be vulnerable and to share who you truly are with other people. Now, in the beginning, maybe you just want to choose that one or two individual to be vulnerable with. But I certainly recommend finding more people to feel vulnerable with. Because when you do, you literally, you don't know how many more relationship bonds will be created based on doing that. You go deep quick with people. It's amazing how things change for you. Now, I can only tell you so much. You have to be willing to expose something to someone. Now, I'm not saying expose yourself like in a negative or in a sexual way here. I'm just saying, and mind you, also a part of this, I should caveat this, be mindful of the story you're sharing before you just blurt it out. Because I've certainly heard some really embarrassing stories from people that in the context that they should never have shared it in necessarily, especially work related. So be mindful of those things. So that be first. And then from there, depending on that relationship, share it with the right people. But at least share it. And then and then grow that. Then yes, find ways to share more. You don't have to share every embarrassing story that happens to you either. And not that what Larissa's going through is an embarrassing story. That definitely is not. That's just one of, wow, this could happen to my family. Or I know someone who's gone through this. My story with my mother, I don't find it's certainly not an embarrassing story, in my opinion. But it's one that shows vulnerability. It shows, like, in loss, we feel vulnerable in loss. And it's a scary prognosis. It's a scary thing to think about. There's potential to lose someone that close to you. And what happens when that takes place, right? There's vulnerability in that story. There's also vulnerability in the a story like, and the roll of toilet paper followed them out of the bathroom, right? There's also vulnerability in that, and the ability to laugh at oneself for something like that. Now, I share that in not the aspect that I've ever done it, but I've certainly seen TP stuck to a shoe before. Not mine, but someone else's, thankfully. The idea, though, is that know who you are, and also in finding who you are, this also helps in sharing those things. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope this has been useful for you. I'm David Dubé with Only One You Need Radio. It's time that you be the person that you're meant to be, believe in all that you're capable of, and become more than you thought imaginable. I'll catch you on the next episode.